Welcome to the Inner Voice Podcast with the Conscious Living Coach. Join your host Jennifer Mackenzie and guests as they delve deep into the mind, spiritual practices, and holistic well-being. What does your inner voice say to you?
Hello and welcome to another episode of That Inner Voice podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Mackenzie, the Conscious Living Coach, owner of Lunar Spirit Wellbeing. Welcome back. If you are watching on the video, do like and subscribe to make sure you do not miss every new episode. And if you are listening on the audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. And today I am joined by Sarah Ibrahim. Welcome, Sarah. How are you doing?
Thank you, my love. Yes, I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Good. So you call yourself, or you have been named, the Inspiration Queen. I love that.
That's me.
Yeah.
So
tell me a bit about how you got that name.
How I got my crown, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I basically gave it to myself. No, so my whole life I've spent inspiring people, basically, whether that be by default or by design, and I hadn't realized this was actually a gift. Like, I find lots of people inspiring and so on. But one thing that's been consistent throughout my life is like, oh my God, you've inspired me to do this. You've inspired me to be that. You've inspired me to not do this or whatever it is. And I was like, hang on a minute, there's a pattern here. And so when I was branding myself as a coach, I was like, why don't I just be an inspiration coach? So that's how I started off. And then I was like, sorry, what? I'm a queen. Inspiration queen it is. And so that's where we're at right now.
Love it. Love it. So just a quick trigger warning. We are going to be talking about addiction today and especially cocaine addiction. So if that's going to affect you in some way, just an FYI. So Sarah, tell me about your experience with addiction and mental health.
Ooh.
Okay. Let's right into the juice a bit, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, let's not bother with small talk.
Yeah.
So I found myself shackled to a cocaine addiction for like 20 years almost. So basically my entire adult life. And you say, what's the link between that and mental health? Honestly, I never even put the two things together until I gave it up, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it's true. So I was constantly on this hamster wheel of kind of, I don't know what I think. I don't know whether I can trust what I think because it's really what I think, or because it's the drugs, or it's the after effect of the drugs, or it's because I haven't slept for 3 days, or because I haven't eaten for 3 days. Constantly questioning my freaking self, and it drives you demented. And so my mental health suffered in that sense, and also in the sense of, just being constantly on a come down and constantly recovering poorly, and then celebrating that recovery with another session, of course. That was one of my favourite lies. You've been so good. Reward yourself by getting smashed.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. Yes. So you are a recovered addict, yes? Yes. So and what was the breaking point for you, and when did you say to yourself, I've had enough of this?
So it wasn't actually that long ago, in all honesty, Jen. It was 9 months ago now.
Wow.
So I say not that long ago. That's phenomenal considering my entire adult life was given to it, as I say. So in May 2021, I finally woke up one day and I was just like, I just can't even do this anymore. And this was on the tail end of a massive kind of 10-day bender. I say 10-day bender. I have a 3-year-old. So this was not like all night, all day, all night, all day. But it was a cycle of get up, take him to nursery or whatever I was doing, and then do it, and then go get him from nursery, wait till he goes to sleep, and then do it, and then not be asleep myself, and then he gets up the next morning, and the next day I feel like what. And so what do we do to medicate that? We do some more.
All over again.
Oh, yes. And so by day kind of 10, my nose was about to fall off my face. My throat was really sore. I couldn't breathe. I hated everybody. And I was very, very poor. And I just thought, why am I choosing this again? And yeah, honestly, as well, I started to worry about myself in the sense of like I would get in bed, right? And I wear a Fitbit, and like I look at my heart rate, and it would be like 160 beats a minute, and I'm like, okay, my Fitbit thinks I'm running a marathon, and actually, I'm just lying in bed pretending to be asleep, so my mum doesn't catch me sniffing coke. Like, not a good look. And so that frightened me a bit, and also the thought of just dying in my bed. To be honest, like I just thought Chase could get up one morning. I'm the only parent he's got. He could get up one morning and find me overdosed in my bed.
That's the reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I never thought of that before.
Reality, yeah, is that it? That's where it ends, really, isn't it? It's a very sometimes quick, sometimes slowly way of killing yourself.
Yeah, and I'd never really thought about that, Jenny. It's only when someone said to me, it was the hypnotherapist that I had some sessions with after I gave up, who said, you could have died. And I was like, what? Yeah. I thought, actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Not once in 20 years did that come in my head.
So where do you think it all kind of started for you then on the road to addiction?
And breathe. I believe that addiction is rooted in trauma in some way, shape, or form across the board, right? And when I first heard the term trauma, I'm thinking like child abuse or, sexual assault or, these great big things. And it's not that, right? It can just be as simple as something that I've misinterpreted as a child that I heard my parents say to each other. So I'm still working on identifying what exactly it was. But a long story short, Jen, is this, that I grew up in an environment that was quite volatile. My dad was Egyptian, my mum was English, so that had its own complications. My dad was a Muslim, and I say that in inverted commas because he never once practiced it here. But as soon as he went home, he was a very devout Muslim and prayed 5 times a day and all of that stuff. My mum, on the other hand, found God as soon as I was born and became very Christian, and I do mean very Christian. Right. And so there would be these stand-up rows in the street on a Sunday morning where my dad would be, trying to drag us home and my mum would be trying to drag us to church, and so little Sarah created this belief that it's not safe to have beliefs, right? Okay. At this time also, my dad would disappear off to Egypt for like 6 months at a time. He would say to little Sarah, I'll be back in 2 weeks. And little Sarah believed that for a while until she didn't. And he would still say he's going for 2 weeks. And little Sarah knew he was lying. And so little Sarah made up a story that said, he doesn't love you. You're not important enough. Then my granddad died when I was 9. And so little Sarah made up a story that men always leave you. The men you love, they're never here. And then I found out my dad remarried in Egypt while he was still married to my mum here in the UK. Little Sarah made up a story. He doesn't love you. You're not important. Then my dad died. Little Sarah made up a story. The men that you leave, they're never there. And you can see where this is going. So by now I'm 17 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then drugs came. Drugs came and everything else went away. And I was untouchable and everything was all okay. I say it in that way, although that's not exactly, I was dabbling in drugs before the real kind of, I'm a junkie, for want of a better expression. But, and it was a progression. So I'd started off with kind of weed and then went on to a bit of speed, and then ecstasy was like, oh my God, this is just like, what is life without ecstasy? Which I gave away most of my 20s to, and most of my memory, in fact. And from 27, cocaine became my best friend alongside guilt and shame. And, that was kind of the progression in that sense. But I believe that it started from, just not feeling loved. Even though I was, let me caveat that by saying that I know that I was, and I didn't know that I was making up that story when I was younger. I've only realised that kind of doing the work that I do now. Yeah. And it's sad, actually.
It is sad. And there is that definite link between trauma that goes on in those vital years of childhood, whether we're aware of it or not. And mostly we're unaware of these things, and how they affect us as children until we start to do the work, and when we get older.
That's right.
And some people, they never have that awareness, do they? And they never kind of wake up to that fact and carry on in the same cycles. For me, I started when I was 13, and used alcohol. And when you said like it became your best friend, alcohol became my superpower. Because I was painfully shy, and then as soon as I had a drink, I could be whoever I wanted to be,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I just wanted more and more and more, and I didn't
Freedom.
stop. So when you were then in your height of your addiction, how were your relationships then with other people? Because we all know what happens in addiction. Is not just the addict that is affected, it is everybody else that you come into
Absolutely.
contact with.
So first thing to say is that I had no idea that I was an addict, right?
Yeah.
Which is ludicrous. How do you spend £500 in 10 days and not know you're an addict? Doesn't make sense. Alas, such was the level of my delusion. But to answer your question, my relationships were shot to pieces, I think is probably approximately right. I didn't turn up for my mum's 60th birthday party, because I was out my nut, because that's more important. I was on day 3 of a bender and just didn't show up, turning my phone off, didn't show up. Like, that was how I handled my relationships. I was married for a year. Our relationship didn't break up because of coke, but, I would go off on 3-day benders, turn my phone off. My husband wouldn't know where I was. I would just be like, yeah, but I'm a good time girl, And because he would never accuse me of cheating, which I never was, I couldn't have functioned in that department in the state that I was in. Let's be real here, yeah? Like, I don't want anyone touching me. When I'm off my face, I'm just like, get the fuck away from me, yeah? Like, no, ain't happening. And so he knew that, and he would never accuse me of, infidelity and stuff like this, which it wouldn't have made a difference if he did, because I knew that it wasn't the case and I wouldn't have stopped what I was doing anyway. But he never did, because he also did it himself, and so he knew the party lifestyle, but he was much more able to put the brakes on. And so he became very, I don't want to say authoritarian, but, wanting to help me, obviously, coming from a place of, my wife might die if I let her keep going on these 3-day benders.
Yeah.
But me being like, you're trying to clip my wings, like, hello, come off it. Right? And, not showing up for work on Monday or Tuesday, and then feeling better Wednesday, and not showing up Thursday or Friday either. So, relationships were a little bit fraught in the office, shall we say.
Yeah.
I think you get the picture.
Yeah. Well, how did it affect the relationship with yourself?
About that. So it
Ask
was
all the good questions, me.
Yeah, I'm going to do this to you on my show. You know that,
I know.
don't you? I'm like, make a note of them all. Right, go straight in for the jugular.
No messing about.
Didn't realise the gloves were off, love. You could have warned me.
These are the type of things that we need to be talking about,
It really
let's not pussyfoot around addiction. It's a serious thing. It's a serious problem. Some people can use drugs recreationally, here and there, and it doesn't sort of affect them too badly. And, then they can leave it behind and crack on with their life. But for those that do get caught in the web of addiction, these are very real things. And it's, for me and my experience with myself and with people in addiction, is that it stems from that relationship with yourself.
Yep.
First and foremost.
For sure. So I spent my life basically not being good enough, right? In some way, shape or form. So again, it comes back to my childhood. I I've still got super curly hair, as you can see. Those of you that are on audio, just imagine curly hair. And my mum never managed it very well, let's say, to the point that it was kind of like, a big afro type thing.
Yeah.
That she would brush. Yeah, like, it was horrific. And kids at school would call me Wiggy, right?
Okay.
And there was nothing I could do, right? I didn't know how to do my hair. I was 10 years old. And then I went to secondary school, and I would always wear it straight back in this really tight bun with like a headband, and it's like horrific. I look at pictures of myself at school now, and I'm like, you poor girl. And other girls would love to pull it out because they'd never seen my hair down, and I hated that as well. And then when I went to secondary school as well, Jen, it was such a culture shock, right? I hadn't realised what a sheltered childhood that I'd led. I went there and I understood about Take That. I'd never heard of Take That. Who would take that? I didn't know Jewish people existed. How do you not know a Jew exists when you're 11 years old? Do you know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff. My school was absolutely swamped with Jews, which was amazing. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what that means. Like, what is this? Like, you know, and then we had a Jewish assembly at our school to the point, like, this is how much of a Jewish contingent we had. And stuff like this. And I was just like, what? And, you know, they talk about home and away and neighbours. And I was like, what's that? I don't know what that is. I didn't own a pair of jeans. I didn't own a pair of trainers, you know. And so I was just so far out of touch with what everybody was talking about and thinking. Also, a point to note here is that I was always like streets ahead at primary school. So I was always the smartest kid in the class without trying. Yeah. I went to secondary school, to a grammar school. So this is, you know, kind of for the ones that pass the 11 plus as we have here in the UK. And so there's only 120 places in the whole borough, which is like thousands of people wide. And I got into this school and I was just like, oh no, please no. I just didn't want to go. It was an all-girls school. And I was like, no. Mum didn't listen to me, of course. Why should I have to say what school I'm going to? Off she sent me packing. Well, suddenly in this environment where every kid is as smart, if not smarter than me, right? So I'm not used to this. And it sounds silly, right? But I went from being the smartest kid that I'd ever known and had been my entire life to suddenly being the thickest, right? Like I was in the bottom class for everything. I didn't get things. I struggled to keep up with it. And I was just like, I don't get what's going on here. And it was just girls everywhere. Girls are super bitchy, as we know, or they can be, I should say, you know, and then coupled with the fact of all of this stuff that I just said a minute ago, you know, not even knowing who take that where. I mean, how can you be 11 years old in 1990 and not know who take that off?
I know, I was never bothered by them.
Well, you still know who they are, right?
I used to love Mariah Carey.
Okay. Well, whatever. I didn't know who she was, yeah? Right? You get the idea here. Right?
Yeah.
And then I started to be bullied. I started to get bullied in this school and I freaking hated it. I hated it so much. And so it was just a constant struggle of trying to fit in. Yeah. And I realized this day that I've got really bad posture. Like I often sit kind of with my shoulders hunched and stuff. And I had the epiphany, the moment the other day where I was like, that's from when you were being bullied at school.
Yeah, where you like small. Yeah,
that's it, make myself small and like, you know, and I struggle, my back aches, and it's because I walk like that. I'm 40 years old. I left school like a very long time ago. But these things stay with you, don't they? And
absolutely,
my relationship with myself was, you know, I just always was like wanting people to like me, but not in that kind of really desperate way. You know, I was okay, and then I realised I could reinvent myself if I wanted to, but that only happened after I had been involved in a domestic violence relationship for a year and a half. So I was now 19 years old or 20, and I had nothing. By the time I left him, I had nothing. Like I hadn't spoken to my friends for a year because I wasn't allowed to, you know, and all of this stuff. And so I was just like, okay, this is great. I'm 20. I've got no friends. I've got no money. I've got no home. I've got no nothing. Oh, awesome. And he had a coke problem. Now, I didn't know this at the time, right? I knew nothing about the drug whatsoever. Now I know what I do. It's very freaking obvious. Yeah. But he would steal my money. You know, he would beat me up. He would like vanish up into the loft for the whole night, drinking and sniffing coke. Obviously, I didn't know that. And so I would drink just to get obliterated and deal with him and just to be able to take the beating, basically. It was hideous. Yeah. But anyways, after I left him, finally, I just suddenly thought, you know what? I don't have to be her. I don't have to be helpless. I don't have to be liked. I can just be the most powerful person I know, right? But that wasn't in the same way that I think it now, right? So my answer to that was creating this persona. So I suddenly became really freaking popular. I suddenly became really entertaining. I suddenly became the person that everybody wanted around them, right? And so I genuinely thought that was me, right? And sometimes people would say to me, Sarah, you know, this is just a front. And I'm like, don't tell me about me. I know me better than you know me. And I would laugh about it. And I was very gobby. Hard to believe, I know. I was very gobby, very sweary, and I still am to an extent. Very, you know, I could be quite rude, but again, I just said, no, it's just me, it's just me, it's just me. It's only, again, recently that I've realised, no, that was all just the front. You believed your own lies there, girlfriend. But, you know, like I've always had a lot of friends. I've always been quite popular, but just never felt like, I don't know, like the one that I wanted to be, I guess. So drugs and alcohol were, you know, my allies in this quest to be seen. I suppose that's why I was so gobby and everything, because I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. I wanted people to pay attention to me. I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be, you know, I wanted to be wanted. And I really was. I really was. So I succeeded in that sense, but also, you know, wrecked my life.
It's like we put on these masks, isn't it? We just put on these masks to protect ourselves. I mean, like, underneath that addiction is like lots of pain, lots of hurt, and mostly fear of not being loved, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough is the main underlying causes that, you know, that I've seen in kind of years of my own addictions and working with people and seeing people go through it themselves, losing people, unfortunately, along the way. Like, I can't count how many people we've lost now through alcoholism or drug addiction, or, you know, through, or suicide, through the pain that they just can't get away from it. But it's like, when you kind of come out of it, you have to, like, it's like, who the fuck am I?
Exactly that.
For me, when I went into recovery and I was just abstinent from everything, it was scary because I had to do things like just going out for something to eat without my crutch, without my best friends.
Oh yeah.
I had to have sex without drugs and alcohol. Whoa, mind blowing. Oh, it's scary. Like, how was that for you? Because it becomes so, when you're in that for so long, it just becomes such a habit and such a big part of you.
Yeah.
How did you find then that transition from, like, going from that addict and having that reliability on drugs and alcohol, and then nothing? How did you cope with normal stuff again?
I discovered actually that I'm really brave without it, which was a shock, right? I discovered that actually I'm more confident without it, which again was a shock, because how would I know? Why would it
Well,
be a shock? I never tried it. But I totally get what you're saying, because like my whole life, I genuinely couldn't work out what people did at the weekend if they didn't get on it. Like, it literally was that bad. I did think to myself, what do people actually freaking do? Like, I do not want to go to the library. I totally don't want to go swimming. I'm not joining any clubs. Like, it ain't happening. What do people do? Like, that is so boring. That is really what I thought. And that was a genuine thing. It wasn't a judgment. It was just like real curiosity. Like, what do people actually do? I don't understand this. Like, I mean, that's sad, isn't it? And then I would think to myself, you know, okay, I'm going to give this up. When I did give it up, I was just like, right, okay, who am I? As you said, who am I?
Yeah.
What is going on here? I've lived my whole life not knowing who I am. How can I be 40 years old and not know what I like? How is that even possible? So you have to kind of reconcile these things where you feel like you've wasted time and wasted your life and done all this bad stuff. And life can be scary. It was just like, what, just be left with just me. No, like no escape. Just no way. That's how it was for a long time, a really long time. But actually, I discovered, fuck, I'm amazing. Didn't need it all this time, you know. And actually, life is better without it.
Absolutely, connections are better without it. You know, for me, I was just an absolute knob end when I have a drink. I mean, I drink socially now, but I had to have like a long time of pure abstinence. I mean, I was addicted to crack, amphetamines, and cocaine and alcohol. And I had a big concoction of stuff, you know. But that's by the by. It doesn't matter how much you do, or what stuff you do. It's still an addiction, and it's still life destroying. But for me, it's like I'm still healing, because it's an ongoing process. Like, I'm like 5-6 years in recovery now, from crack and speed. And I used to take speed because I could focus. I used to have it in the morning with my tea, cup of tea, a spoon of speed. And it just, and because I got called fat, and then I would take it for weight loss as well. So I wouldn't eat, and I just looked grey and about 6 stone. And
Nice.
but yeah, really sexy. And but it was peeling off those layers in recovery, and I think I'm still peeling off those layers to get to that true authentic self, because you things go around and around, don't they? They some healing happens, and then you think, oh yeah, I've dealt with that, and then you get a bit deeper into it, and it's like, oh, here that is again.
I know, yeah.
So even 5-6 years down the line, there's still those triggers for me, and they're still peeling off the layers, because you just spend so many years armoring yourself up, don't you? Like putting on this armor, this protection. I was a bitch. I was an angry little midget, and peeling off those layers. Now I've got to this where I just love myself unconditionally.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find myself telling myself off, and I'm like, no, just stop that. Stop talking to yourself like that.
Yeah.
But it's those layers, I think, they continue to peel off. How do you feel about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's never going to be a day where we go, right, self-development, tick, finished. Yeah. I don't ever need to do it ever again. It's a lifetime's work, isn't it? It's a lifetime's work. And as we grow and evolve and see things differently and experience different stuff, there's going to be more work to do, even if it's the same work or different work, it's a given. And me personally, I freaking love it. Some of it's painful, some of it's ugly, some of it's, involves a lot of snotty crying. But equally, some of it is so liberating, it's so freeing, it's so empowering. Some of the gifts that I've uncovered just by virtue of being clean are unbelievable. I've been working on my psychic development recently, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. Oh my God. Huh? And all of this stuff. And it's just it's mind blowing. I will never get tired of learning about myself. I will never get tired of understanding how others think and why me and you can see the exact same thing at the exact same time and go away with two different stories. Yeah. That whole thing about the human psyche and our interpretation and all that stuff, it fascinates me. It really does. And so, I'm here for all of it. You don't go into recovery half-hearted, do you? Without thinking to yourself, okay, there's going to be a journey.
Yeah. So what did we've talked about the crappy stuff, right? And there is so much, isn't there? The relationship breakdowns, the mental health, the depression. Yep. But let's talk about the positive recovery, because that's what I'm all about, and promoting life after recovering from absolutely anything. That doesn't mean addiction. It means domestic violence that you've touched on briefly there. You can recover from anything, and even like self-sabotage, which goes hand in hand with all of this. But let's talk about the positives of recovery. What did you do to help yourself recover?
So first off the bat, I had clinical hypnotherapy. I only had 4 sessions with an amazing hypnotherapist, actually, and that really, really helped me to recover, understand what was going on, and to recover. Other than that, I've not plugged myself into any recovery communities until just recently, as you and I were talking about before the show. I have just completed recovery coach training with the Recovery Coach Academy, and that is awesome and really helping my recovery. And actually their thing is, how can we help you with your recovery today? That's it. It's as simple as that. And that for me is wow, okay, awesome. But other than that, it's just been things that I have been doing, that I know are going to help me, like meditation, creating routines that don't allow for me to veer off track. For me, it's been about talking about it openly on Facebook, for example, and holding myself to this really high level of accountability, because how can I have a radio show called Diary of a Cocaine Addict and then go off and sniff my little head off? My integrity just won't allow it. Do you know what I mean? So things like this are the things that I'm doing to keep myself on track, but it looks different for everybody. There's no one size fits all, is there? And for me, spirituality
as well.
Spirituality has been the main thing for me that has kept me on track. And in fact, it was my spirituality that led me to recovery at the time that it did, rather than recovery leading me to spirituality, which I believe is quite a common way for it to unfold. God, it'd be good if I could speak.
Yeah. So talk about like spirituality there. That spirit, I would say, like, spirituality saved my life. I was a spiritual kid, loved all that as a kid. I lost my way and faith with it, really, like, but I would still connect. Weirdly, I would still connect with it when I was high, because it does open gateways, like, and I felt I could still connect with something greater than me, although I was in a hell of a mess a lot of the
Yep.
time. But for me, a lot of the time when I was high, I would want to be by myself, and I would write. I've still got stuff that I've written, like,
Wow.
you know, in those the late nights that I was on my own and off my face, because I found I got so closed off, and it was like I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel any emotion. I didn't give a shit. But what then that helped me to do was it helped me to let stuff out. And then I would write, and I would listen to different music that would then allow me to open up those emotions and let it out. And then
Yeah.
on the come down, it would all come spilling out. But for me, so in a way, it kind of, it was a help in a way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
To
I
have,
do.
and I'm not promoting that at all, but this is just my
Mm.
personal journey, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
is like what I talk about is my own personal experience. Like, this is different for everybody, but it helped me to reconnect with myself
Yep.
in the later days, where I could actually then just feel some sort of emotion again. It's like
Yeah.
that just completely went,
Yeah.
um, for me. And I actually in hospital had like a huge spiritual awakening, where something switched, and like it felt like something clicked in me. It was weird, and it's like a light come back on, and then I was like, I dropped to my knees, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And that's the day that my life changed.
Wow.
And then I could then start to actually be honest with myself and say, I'm not well.
Yeah.
I'm not well. I need help.
Yeah.
I can't do this on my own. And
Yeah.
so I reconnected with my spirituality.
Mm.
You know, after that hospital stay.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Funny enough, when you say, like, how
mm.
actually using helped you to
Yeah.
process stuff, I can't imagine anything worse than being on my own. Although, granted, I was on my own a lot towards the end, but I wouldn't be able to write, definitely not, because I can't concentrate. I'm like, I'll go in the kitchen and go and get a glass out, and I'll be like, what was I doing? Like, I mean, it's
Mm,
obvious. You've got a glass in your hand and it's empty. Like, what do you think you were doing?
mm,
Like, I just couldn't think straight, but it helped me to get through my divorce.
mm,
Like, it allowed me the space to have those deep conversations that I probably was running away from having. Well, I wasn't out man up,
mm,
basically,
mhm.
because it created that forum. Do you know what I mean? Like, you had the confidence to just say it. And
Yeah, yeah.
although I couldn't understand if it was really what I was thinking, or if it was the drugs,
Yeah, yeah, there is
I
that.
was able to just get it all out in a safe way for me,
Mm,
which, I mean, so yeah, just wanted to pick up on that.
mm,
But spirituality for me has been like something that has been present for the last, I don't know, say 3 years, since Chase came
mm,
into my life, since I had Chase.
mm.
And I suddenly went into network marketing. I don't know if you know what that is. Right.
Yeah.
I went into network marketing and was exposed to the law of attraction. And I was just like, this is an absolute crock of shit. You don't up your asses. Like, I appreciate that you're very positive people and I really love all that. But
Mm.
seriously, you're in fucking la la land, peeps.
We get in the realms of toxic positivity.
And I wasn't shy about saying that. And I never openly said to people, shut up. Yeah, because I wouldn't. But you know what happened? The more and more I was kind of hearing this stuff, more it started to penetrate my little resistant brain.
Mhm,
Until one day I was just like, oh, that is because of that.
mhm,
Uh-huh. And then
mm.
I started to look into it, and then I realised that was because of that, and that was because of that, and this was because of that, and all of a sudden, all these dots was joining, and I was like, "Oh, it's real.
Yeah.
And then, because I'm a self-development junkie, I wanted to learn everything there was to know about everything yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I just fully threw myself into it, getting as much information and doing as many free courses and manifesting and all of this stuff. And I love it. And actually, I had the most profound awakening at the start of last year when I read The Greatest Secret by Rhonda Byrne. So this is different from The Secret. The Greatest Secret, like literally as I was reading it, I was like, like I could feel the world changing inside me. And I was like, oh my days. To the point that I read it twice in 5 days. Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old. I had a 2-year-old at the time. How do you find time to read one book? Even one book twice in 5 days? I don't know. But I did. And it rocked my entire world. And I was like, oh my days, oh my days, oh my days, oh my days. This is magical. And then went on to pursue, like, you know, really sharing the stuff that I had learned. So because of how much I threw myself into it, I had a lot of information. I could see a lot of stuff working, and I had done a lot of stuff. So within like a year, I was teaching it myself and continue to do so. So spirituality kind of underpins everything that I do. And actually, a rebrand is coming soon for me as the Recovery Win. And I love it, right? But this isn't something that I could have owned before, you know. I couldn't have done that, but I can now. And so having like connected myself up to this kind of, I don't know, spiritual persona, I suddenly felt much more safe. I felt much more held. I felt much more supported by myself as much as anything else, and that allowed me to start to see that I wasn't really very kind to me, which is the thing that started to lead me into recovery. You know, like I just couldn't carry on hating on myself that much every day. It just takes so much energy, as you know.
It really does.
But yeah, that constant negative chatter, that constant like, I'm such a bad mum, looking at my son thinking, why aren't you enough to make me give it up? Why? What sort of mum am I? You know, all of that stuff. And of course, you know. So
and that have had to watch me destroy myself, but they've also watched me rebuild myself. And they, you know, two of my, well, one's 20 this year, and another one is she's coming up to 17. They've you know, unfortunately they had to witness a lot of stuff, but they've also witnessed me make changes and now do what I do. And I get I've got a little note actually here, and it says, remember to love yourself because you are worth it. Love you, mum. Which my second daughter wrote for me. I'll cry now. You know, and they've listened to the podcasts that I've done, and then and they've witnessed change, and they've seen me rebuild my life, which it's not going to take away the stuff that they've seen, but you know, they are now proud of me, and they're proud of the fact that I have turned that around and now helping other people with my story. Which brings me on to, like, you know, how has opening up and sharing your story, because I'm a massive advocate for this, doing the podcast, I do like within my group, I get people to come and share, because speaking up and facing it and sharing your story is powerful, and it helps so many people. So what's changed for you, like, and how's that helped you, like speaking up and sharing your story?
I can't even tell you, Jen, how much that it has changed the trajectory of my life. That one act of coming home and telling my mum has just completely set my life on a different trajectory altogether. So what happened was, I was working with a coach. I had given up for like 4 days, which was super long time for me then, right? Like that was forever. And I joined a mastermind program, and we started doing this bit of work around finding your purpose. And I was like, I know my freaking purpose. I'm a coach. Yeah. Like, I don't need to do this work again. Right. But because I'd paid $2,000 for the program, I was like, better just give it a go. Hey. So I did. And what I discovered was, okay, you're lying to yourself. What's missing on this here spreadsheet is the part where, you know, you want to help others that are like you, people that have struggled with addiction, people that can't or won't speak up for themselves, right? That's what your purpose is. And you can't even write it down, right? And I phoned my coach and I was like, here's the thing. And she was like, so what do you need to do? And I was like, tell my mum. And I was like, no, don't let that, no. But I knew then, and when you know and you don't take action, there's no excuse. When you don't know and you don't take action, kind of get away with it a little bit more, right?
Yes.
But I knew that I
You don't
knew.
know what you don't know.
No.
You
And I was
can't
in the
be aware of
laundrette.
what you
I was in the laundrette at the time because I'm a classy bird like that, right? I'm in the laundrette having this conversation with her, and I was like, shit, I need to tell my mum. And then I was like, well, what if my son gets taken away? What if she calls social services? What if she calls the police? And then the truth came in. Sarah, they're excuses. They're not reasons. They're excuses to not hold yourself to the highest level of accountability. Because if I tell her there's no freaking going back, believe me, right? And I hadn't wanted to do it because I wanted to have that little get out clause just in case. And I knew what I needed to do. I knew it. Anyway, I decided there and then. I came home and I told her, to her credit, she took it really, really well. And actually has been 100% supportive. So then on the back of that, I came out and I told the world on Facebook. And my reasoning for doing so was to A, hold myself accountable, but to B, make it safe for others. You know, if I can say, look, I've been at home with a 2-year-old throughout lockdown, getting off my tits on coke, right? I ain't proud. But I've sat down, I've told my mum, and now I'm telling you so that you'll know that it happens and that it's okay that it happens if we're going to do something about it, i.e. turn our lives around. I'm not saying just do whatever you want here, obviously. But, you know, we make it safe for others by being able to own our truths and show up authentically. And it's not a case of like, oh, and I done this and I done that, and, you know, trying to outdo each other with our shame, acts of shame. Right?
There's so much of that in recovery.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, I did this. Like, yeah, and what? You know, like, I'm literally just trying to share a story from the heart. And actually, over 1,000 people have viewed that video now on Facebook, which I'm just like, what? I had never have anticipated the reach of that and the impact it's had and whatever. But it has been the single most transformative thing that I've ever done is to tell everybody, because I would always talk about my drug taking, like publicly, but as if it was in the past. I never said, like, here's my best thing, it's coke, until I did. And, you know, 2 weeks after I did that, within 2 weeks, I'd made 10K in my business. I signed up 8 one-to-one clients. I had not done that at all in my business in 2 years. I've been struggling. Bam, spoke the truth. Thought to myself, who's going to want to buy from a cokehead? Who's going to trust a cocaine addict?
Yeah.
Why are people going to give credibility to what I say? And the next thing, people were like, take my money, coach me. And I was like, huh? How's this got on? But it was amazing. And so in every sense, it's changed my life. Like, it's given me freedom. It's helped me to rebuild my relationships with my family, my friends, my clients, my audience. It's given me, you know, a platform to be able to share hope and inspiration with others. Like, the list is just endless.
I love that. I really do. I'm just sitting here nodding. I'm like, yeah, I just love that. When we speak our truth, you know, that opens up the gates of abundance.
The world.
Yeah. And it opens up a world of opportunity. And, you know, sharing your story. It always gives other people permission to tell themselves the truth. And that's a biggie. It gives people permission to say,
yeah,
I've actually, you know, not been truthful. This is me. This is the real me. I've been hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do things that we're not proud of. We just think, oh my God, like, I didn't tell anybody for the longest time. Even my really close friends I used to get on it with, they didn't know that I was here on my own getting on it, right? Because here's the thing, I didn't want anyone to think that I didn't want to, because I really did want to. Like, if I told someone what was going on, they would expect me to stop. And I didn't want to stop. You crazy? No way. So I didn't tell anybody, and I just struggled on my own. And so by saying things like that in that way, people are just like, oh, okay, there are others. Like, oh, it's not just me. Like, oh, okay, if she can turn it around, then maybe I can.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm here.
Be living proof, isn't it, of you know, life after addiction. Yeah. So what do you do now then? Because we've touched a little bit on what you do, but just explain it a little bit more so that the listeners and the viewers are clear.
So I'm a coach as well, like yourself, and I coach women and help them to really explore what's next for them after they've recovered from addiction. You know, like, we go into recovery and we're a mess and we don't know who we are. And so I help people to kind of figure out, okay, well, who actually am I anyway? what is available for me now that I'm clean? Like, how do I figure out what to do? Right? How do I know what my options are?
Yeah.
How do I identify the thing that's going to light me up? Like, I don't know anything. And I help people with that piece. And I've got obviously my radio show as well, which is Diary of a Cocaine Addict. So this is really a platform that I use to just share wisdom, hope, inspiration. You're coming on, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wisdom, hope. Yeah, next week. Inspiration, all of that stuff. No, not next week, the week after. To just do something as an act of service, basically. Constantly talking on my Facebook about it, stuff like this. So I've just been working on my psychic development, actually. And so I'm really, really buzzed for the things that are coming next for me. I really want to bring more of that sort of stuff into my offering, but look out for that. It's forthcoming, let's say.
Ooh, exciting. So, thank you so much for coming on. And I always end the show with asking my guests 3 questions.
Okay.
So, as the podcast is called That Inner Voice, so what does your inner voice say to you?
What now?
Yeah.
My inner voice says to me, it depends. It says all sorts of things. And it's awesome. Just like today and Wednesday in particular, I've been in this amazing energy. Like today, my inner voice has been saying to me, this is going to be a freaking amazing day. I don't know what's going to happen, but something amazing is going to happen. Or maybe that's my intuition. I don't know. Intuition is the same as your inner voice, right? Yes, no? Discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not always, because the inner voice can be a lie, but it can also be I would say inner knowing is your intuition.
Yeah, I hear ya. So today my inner voice has been saying, just show up and do what you can. That's what I do.
Love that. And then the second question is, what are you most excited about right now?
The thing I'm most
could be anything.
The thing that I'm most excited about right now is learning more about this psychic stuff. It's really got me like, I'm buzzed for it, I'm like literally mind blown every time I start diving into it. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh yes, good luck with that. It's great. And the third question even is, what is the best bit of advice you have ever been given by somebody else?
The best bit of advice I've ever been given is to just do you. Like, stay in your own lane, right? Like, it doesn't matter what is going on there or there. Just you are over here, right? There's no comparison. It doesn't exist. Like, you are the only you. You don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. And just focus on that and know that you are loved. You're worth it. You're loved. You're good enough.
Yes to all of that. So where can people find you?
On the Book of Face. So the Inspiration Queen 2911 is my profile. Your True North is my business page on Facebook. Insta, the Inspiration Queen. Noticing a theme here. I'll share my links with you after.
Yeah, fabulous. Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been an absolute delight talking to you and inspirational. And it's good to hear your story, and hopefully the people watching and listening have got something out of this. And if you are struggling still with addiction, the first step is just hold your hands up and say, I need a bit of help and guidance here. And to look in the mirror and say, I need some help. And that's do you know what? That's the biggest, the bravest step you will ever take. Trust me. And I'm sure you're going to say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
So you tune in again for the next episode of That Inner Voice. I will see you soon. Goodbye. That was another episode of That Inner Voice. Do join me next time on the next episode. Bye for now.